Have you ever, like, really thought about an artist who doesn't just make songs, but actually builds an entire world? Like, meticulously crafts everything around their music?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Not just the music itself.
Exactly. We're talking about someone who, composes, performs, records everything themselves, but then also designs the artwork, prints the vinyl, sometimes on their own press.
And even ships it out themselves. It's a whole different level of involvement.
It really is. It's not just making art, it's like embodying it,
Yeah.
from the very start right to when it gets to you.
Completely. A true artisan, really.
Totally. Well, today on the deep dive, we're doing just that, taking a really deep look into the singular universe of Phil Elverum.
Ah, Phil Elverum.
He's the musician, the songwriter, the multidisciplinary artist behind these really iconic projects, the microphones and Mount Eerie.
Critically acclaimed, hugely influential for a lot of people.
For sure. And for some, especially like in the Pacific Northwest, he's almost seen as this folkloric deity. It sounds intense, but maybe it fits.
That's a description you hear, yeah. A kind of living legend in that indie scene.
And by the end of this deep dive, hopefully you'll really get why. You'll understand the dedication, the unique vision that earned him that kind of reputation.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
So our mission today is to really unpack the core influences, the totally unique and deeply personal creative processes,
Yeah.
And just the profound artistry that defines Elverum's huge body of work. It's constantly evolving, too.
Right.
We'll be exploring how his sense of place, Anacortes, Olympia,
Yeah.
how that feeds in, his philosophical outlook, and, of course, the really profound life experiences he's gone through. How all that shaped a sound and an aesthetic that's, well, unlike anyone else working today, really.
And what's so striking about his approach, I think, is how it presents this holistic vision. It's not just songs in isolation.
No, definitely not.
He just completely blurs the lines between musician, visual artist, even philosopher sometimes.
Yeah.
It can be challenging maybe, but it's also incredibly rewarding. It kind of asks us, to consider the entirety of what an artist puts out.
Right, not just the MP3 file.
Exactly. Not just the tracks. It's the context, the presentation, the physical object itself, the ideas behind it, the whole package, basically.
The whole ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we're going to try and connect the dots, right? From his early life, trace that creative evolution, because it is an evolution, and really delve into the themes, the really impactful, often deeply emotional themes woven through his discography.
Which is vast.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
And for you listening, we hope this deep dive gives you maybe a fresh perspective on an artist who just absolutely exemplifies self-reliance and like unwavering artistic integrity. It's quite something.
It really is inspiring in that way.
You'll uncover how these incredibly personal stories, through Elverum's kind of unique artistic alchemy, can become universal, how they speak to shared human experiences, nature, love, loss, all of it.
The big stuff.
Yeah, the big stuff. So this isn't just a deep dive about music. It's really about a way of living and creating that's, well, genuinely inspiring. It feels almost like a manifesto for artistic authenticity sometimes.
It's not a bad way to think about it.
So let's start peeling back the layers. Let's trace the roots of this visionary artist right from the beginning. Okay, so Phil Elverum's story. And really, so much of his artistic identity, it feels intrinsically linked to where he started. Anacortes, Washington.
Right. That sense of place is huge for him.
Totally. He was born there May 26, 1978. And his childhood, it sounds like it was steeped in this very specific kind of musical immersion. His dad apparently used to make mixtapes for him and his sister.
Oh, wow. Actual mixtapes. That detail feels so perfect
Well,
somehow.
Doesn't it? It's almost emblematic of Elverum's whole later DIY thing. Like, this wasn't just passive listening on the radio. This was curated, hands-on music consumption, pre-Spotify.
Totally. Handwritten track lists, probably. The whole ritual.
Exactly. Imagine that sense of discovery baked into each tape.
Yeah.
It must have shaped this really early, intimate connection to sound.
For sure. A very direct way to experience music.
And then his own musical journey started, maybe surprisingly, with the tuba.
The tuba, right. You don't immediately picture that for an indie icon.
Not really. But that evolved. By the time he was 14, he'd moved on to drums, which maybe feels a bit more predictable.
More rhythmic foundation.
And he formed his first band called Newbert Circus, and he started writing lyrics then, too.
Okay, so drumming and writing early on.
Yeah. And this whole progression, right, from getting these curated mixtapes to learning instruments, starting bands, writing lyrics, it speaks volumes. It shows this fundamental, like self-directed, hands-on approach to both listening and creating music. It feels like it clearly laid the groundwork for everything that came later.
That's precisely it. What's intriguing here, I think, is how those earliest experiences, the mixtapes, the drumming, the early lyrics, they didn't just expose him to music, they kind of cultivated this internal way of working.
Yeah, a methodology.
Exactly. They laid this remarkably clear path for his later, super self-sufficient, multi-instrumentalist approach, where he really is the architect of every single detail.
Total control.
Right. It suggests a childhood that was rich in, well, sonic exploration, obviously, but also in this kind of self-directed learning, where direct experience trumps formal instruction, you know?
Oh, definitely. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much do those first interactions with art, those formative moments, really shape an artist's whole adult output, their voice?
It has to be significant. For Elverum, these weren't just childhood hobbies. They feel like undeniable building blocks for his whole artistic identity.
Yeah. And for anyone listening who, grew up with parents sharing music like that, making those pre-streaming playlists, or maybe discovered their first instrument and felt that spark, Elverum's beginnings, they really resonate.
That universal feeling of finding your passion.
Right. It reminds you that often the most authentic creative journeys, they don't start in fancy schools or whatever, but in these really personal, intimate, often kind of analog spaces.
Yeah.
So after high school, Elverum didn't just stay put. He actively sought out experiences, went traveling across Canada for a bit.
Getting out, seeing things.
Yeah, observing. And then, in the summer of '97, he made this really pivotal move to Olympia, Washington.
Ah, Olympia. Okay, that's a key location in indie music history.
Absolutely. It was this thriving, almost legendary hub for independent music back then. He lived there until about 2002. And while he did briefly attend Evergreen State College.
Which is known for being pretty alternative itself.
Right, but it's clear his real education was happening elsewhere. He openly said he preferred the local music scene to formal classes. That was the whole reason he moved there.
Makes sense, following the music.
And his main source of income during this time, he said it was small music tours, which just underlines how committed he was right from the start. He was literally touring and creating to get by, not aiming for some conventional career path.
And that period in Olympia, it was absolutely foundational for him. It wasn't just a place to live, it was like a crucible, a vital center for indie music that really fostered this specific ethos, right? Anti-commercialism, community support, a huge emphasis on DIY.
And that K Records vibe.
Exactly. His punk rock experience there, as he called it wasn't just about listening to punk bands. It was about immersing himself in this hands-on, community-driven learning model. You made your own zines, you booked your own shows, you recorded on whatever gear you could find.
Totally grassroots.
Completely. It wasn't about grades or diplomas. It was about raw creation, collaboration, connection within this really vibrant, often pretty scrappy artistic community. That environment clearly shaped his fiercely independent spirit. It ingrained that commitment to self-sufficiency that just defines his later work.
And that deep immersion in Olympia. It wasn't just the music itself, right? It was the whole scene, the ecosystem.
The context mattered.
And a huge part of that ecosystem, even before Olympia, and then kind of feeding back into it, was this one particular record store. It really solidified his early connections and gave him invaluable practical experience.
Right, the business.
The business, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in Anacortes, he worked there in his teens, even before the Olympia move. And it sounds like it was way more than just a retail job. It was like a sanctuary, a workshop.
A point of entry?
Exactly. He'd apparently record music in the back room after hours. Basically turned it into his personal studio.
That's amazing.
And it was there, in that environment, that he met Brett Lunsford.
From Beat Happening, huge figure in that scene.
Yeah, K Records royalty, basically. And Lunsford offered him this really significant opportunity, the drumming gig for the band, D+A, alongside Carl Blau.
Okay, so that's a direct link into the established scene.
Totally. It integrated him into that wider Pacific Northwest indie community. And even during his Olympia years, if money got tight, he'd apparently go back to Anacortes, back to the business. It shows how important it remained for him.
A home base, in a way.
Yeah. And Elverum himself, he explicitly called his time there his entry point to alternative music. So that helped him get deeply immersed. It just powerfully highlights the impact of these local institutions, Informal mentorships, grassroots connections. They matter so much in an artist's early years.
Oh, absolutely. From a broader perspective, working in a record store like that, it's an education in itself. You get this unparalleled organic exposure to tons of different sounds, underground scenes, networks, often way more effectively than any formal music class could give you.
True. It's real-world learning.
And meeting Lunsford, joining D+, that wasn't just practical band experience. It plugged him directly into this significant regional music community, connected him to influential labels like K Records, key artists. Even before his own main projects, the microphones and Mount Eerie really took off.
Right, building that foundation.
It just underscores how these organic community connections and sort of informal apprenticeships often pave a much more impactful path for artistic growth than the traditional routes. It's about being in it, you know?
Totally. Being in the thick of it. And that sense of immersion, it just kept deepening. By January 2000, Elverum was living at the legendary Track House in Olympia.
The Track House, right. Heard stories about that place.
Yeah. Well, before that, he'd apparently lived in some other pretty unique spots, including one he vividly described as the House of Doom in Quincy, Washington.
House of Doom. Seriously.
Seriously. His description is amazing. Legitimately haunted. Raccoons and rats would eat your food right off the shelf. Poison barrels buried in the yard.
Wow. Okay, that's intense. Sounds like something out of one of his songs, almost.
Doesn't it? It adds this raw, unconventional, almost kind of wild personality to his early years. Suggests a comfort with the untamed, maybe.
Or just making do with what was available. The classic starving artist trope.
Probably a bit of both.
And
anyway, the Track House itself was this black house surrounded by forests, and it was renowned as this hub, a dwelling and creative space used by a lot of prominent independent musicians in the Olympia scene. This has been a really collaborative atmosphere.
Yeah, like a shared creative space.
Totally. And in his free time there, Elverum would apparently record music just across the street at Dub Narcotics Studio, Calvin Johnson's studio, right?
Another K Records connection.
And he even volunteered at a local food co-op, just further embedding himself in that whole community fabric. He eventually moved out by 2002. But it really paints this picture of intense, communal, and, yeah, often unconventional creative living.
That period really gives you a vivid picture of an artist living deeply within this vibrant creative ecosystem. The Track House wasn't just a place to crash. It was a crucial node, a nexus in this dynamic artistic network, a place where art and community just completely intertwine.
Like an incubator.
Exactly. A low-cost incubator for independent artists. It speaks volumes about how important physical spaces and shared experiences are for creative development. These unique, often kind of bohemian environments, they become these crucibles for artistic innovation. They nurture talents that might just struggle to flourish in more conventional settings.
Yeah, totally.
And thinking back to that House of Doom description, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, how living in those kinds of unconventional, almost wild environments surrounded by nature's rawness, but also maybe human neglect, how might that have subconsciously ingrained that sense of impermanence? That subtle unease, the raw, untamed aspects of nature that become so central to his lyrics later on.
That's a really interesting thought. Like, it seeped in through lived experience.
Could be. It certainly offers this powerful glimpse into the bohemian, community-driven origins of so many independent artists. It reminds us that really profound inspiration often comes from unique environments and deeply lived, sometimes pretty challenging experiences, not just from formal training or polished studios.
Yeah. It's about full immersion, isn't it, into a lifestyle that actually supports and shapes the art. Okay, so Phil Elverum, he's best known, obviously, for recording and performing under these two distinct yet really intimately connected names, the Microphones.
Which ran from 96 to 2003, roughly, then came back more recently, 2019 to 2022.
All right, and then Mount Eerie, which has been his main project from 2003, basically up to the present. But what's really illuminating is how Elverum himself sees these projects. He doesn't view them as totally separate things. He talks about them as one progression.
One progression, right, like a continuous body of work.
Yeah, with a cohesive theme running through them. But, and this is crucial, he does acknowledge this deeply significant dividing line. His words were between pre-Genevieve dying and post-Genevieve dying.
Referring to his late wife, Genevieve Castret.
Yeah.
That's a profound marker.
It really is. It highlights this huge personal demarcation of the before and after that just dramatically reshaped his whole artistic journey.
Absolutely. Changes everything.
And his output is just astounding. The National Wintry reported back in 2019 that he'd created 40-plus albums across these projects.
40-plus, that's incredibly prolific.
It's an unbelievable body of work by any standard.
And it's fascinating how he frames those projects, the Microphones and Mount Eerie, as this continuous artistic journey. Not separate bands. It's not just like a rebranding exercise when he switches names.
No, it feels much deeper than that.
It's a profound testament to an artist whose life and art are so deeply intertwined they just become inseparable. That demarcation point, Genevieve's death, it signifies this undeniable, almost seismic shift, not just in his personal life, but in the very fabric of his art.
Yeah.
It's an evolution, sure, but one driven by the deepest human experience, where life's biggest events become the raw material, the very essence of what he creates. It forces us as listeners to really acknowledge and engage with the intensely personal core of his work.
And that whole concept of one progression, where personal experience so clearly shapes the art, it kind of invites us to reflect on our own lives, doesn't it? Like, how do our own pivotal moments, our personal stories, redefine our creative work, or even just our professional identity over time? It's a powerful reminder of how we all continuously evolve, and how art can be this mirror reflecting that evolution.
Yeah, it makes it very human.
And this deeply personal approach, it's not just in his themes. It extends directly into how he makes and distributes his music, makes him a true artisan of sound in every sense.
Right, the whole process.
So in 2004, he took maybe the biggest step towards total artistic autonomy. He started his own label, P.W. Elverum and Son, Ltd.
Okay, taking control of the business side, too.
Exactly. And through this label, he releases records not only for Mount Eerie and the Microphones, but also for other artists he supports, like The Spectacle, Thanksgiving, Wolf.
So curating other artists as well.
Yeah. But what truly sets him apart, especially in the modern music industry, is this unwavering, almost radical DIY ethos.
It's pretty extreme, yeah.
He personally prints, packages, and ships his vinyl and merchandise directly to listeners.
Which is incredible dedication. Takes a lot of time.
Unbelievable amount of time. Plus, he creates all the visual art for his releases himself, ensuring this totally cohesive aesthetic vision from the sound right down to the tactile packaging.
It's all one piece.
And he explained why he does it this way. He said he wanted to understand the process holistically and then maybe grow into more complex forms of organization later.
Interesting. So it's about deep understanding, not just control for control's sake.
Seems like it. It feels like this deliberate philosophical stance. And it extends to the recording too, right? He mostly uses analog recording equipment.
Yeah, you can often hear that warmth, that tape hiss sometimes. It feels more organic.
Definitely. Maybe more imperfect sometimes, but in a way that feels distinctively human compared to, super pristine digital stuff.
Yeah, that has character.
And he often works in his own studio spaces, valuing that time and freedom to experiment without external pressures or constantly watching the clock in an extensive studio.
That freedom is key for his kind of exploratory work, I imagine.
Must be.
And this whole approach, it really raises a crucial question, especially today with the digital, often outsourced music industry we have. What does it truly mean for an artist to maintain such granular, meticulous control over every single aspect?
Yeah, it's almost anachronistic, but in a really compelling way.
Elverum's extreme DIY isn't just about, efficiency or independence. It feels like a profound philosophical statement, a rejection of how the industry often commodifies art.
Right.
He seems to be insisting that the value lies just as much in the intimate, tangible process. The feel of the letterpress paper, the subtle hum of the analog tape as it does in the polished vinyl track.
The artifact itself matters.
Exactly. It's this act of radical authenticity, ensuring the entire experience from the sound waves hitting your ears to the physical object you hold in your hands is this unadulterated extension of his singular vision. It really makes you appreciate the craft that goes into it beyond just streaming the song.
Yeah, it makes you think about the value of craftsmanship, doesn't it? And that holistic, hands-on understanding of a process, not just in music, but in any field. It shows how maintaining that kind of control can lead to greater artistic integrity, a more authentic, deeply personal result. It stands in such stark contrast to the often impersonal nature of mass production.
Yeah, it's a different way of valuing creation.
Now, while Elverum is rightly celebrated for this unique solo vision, this intense introspection in his music, he wasn't exactly isolated in his early career. Far from it.
Right, he was very connected to that scene.
Before he started P.W. Elverum and Son, he was closely linked to K Records, that hugely influential indie label in the Pacific Northwest. He worked with artists like Myra, Kyle Field, Carl Blau, Calvin Johnson himself.
All key figures.
Yeah. And even though his own releases back then were mainly his own creations, He was clearly influenced by that strong sense of community, that collaborative spirit that defined the K-Records scene.
You couldn't really be part of that scene without collaborating, I think.
Probably true. And his collaborations went beyond just production. He actively performed in other bands. He joined D Plus as the drummer back in '96, remember?
With Brett Lunsford and Carl Blau.
And he was also the drummer for Old Time Religion for a few years, from '98 to 2002.
Which is a much wilder, more raucous band. Shows his versatility.
Totally. And his production credits are significant, too. He produced Myra's debut album back in 2000, and then her next 3 records as well, plus stuff like Adrian Orange's Thanksgiving album and Genevieve Castre's Pamplemousse.
Right, working closely with his future wife even then.
These weren't just side gigs. They feel like they were really integral to his development as an artist and producer.
Yeah, it's important to recognize that while Elverum is known for his distinct solo vision, these collaborations and his extensive production work clearly show how integral he was to that whole vibrant Pacific Northwest indie scene. He wasn't some hermit artist locked away.
No, he was embedded.
Deeply embedded in a community. It shows his willingness to lend his unique sonic signature to other people's projects, which enriches the collective scene, obviously, but also gives him diverse experience, all while he's simultaneously developing and refining his own distinct voice.
Learning by doing and by collaborating.
Exactly. That interplay between solo artistic growth and communal collaboration. That's often where artists really find their footing. They figure out what makes their own voice unique, partly by working alongside others.
That makes a lot of sense. And these interactions with other artists, alongside his own deep personal experiences and philosophical explorations, they all profoundly influence his artistic direction, and especially the lyrical themes that would come to define his work.
Yeah, the themes are so central.
His musical influences are incredibly diverse. It's like this rich, sometimes really surprising tapestry that goes a long way in explaining his unique sound.
It's not just one thing, is it?
Not at all. He draws from indie rock, obviously acts like Eric's Trip, Will Oldham, Sonic Youth, and the minimalist repetition of Stereolab, which we'll come back to. But he also includes, like, the avant-pop of Bjork. The raw power of Nirvana grunge was huge for him.
Right, growing up in Washington State.
Exactly. The experimental textures of German krautrock bands like Popol Vuh, even the super heavy atmospheric drone of Salomo.
Which you can definitely hear echoes of in some Mount Eerie stuff. That weight.
Totally. And then, here's a fascinating curveball. He's also cited more pop-oriented artists. Angelo Badalamenti, okay, maybe not pop, but Lynch's composer.
Yeah, Twin Peaks connection again.
Tori Amos, the Cranberries, Sinead O'Connor. And he's specifically called grunge a formative influence.
It's a real mix.
Beyond music, his non-music influences are just as insightful, deeply rooted in Zen poetry, specifically the work of I. Dugan and Gary Snyder.
Okay, that explains a lot about the contemplative side, the nature focus, the impermanence themes.
Definitely. It informs his whole approach. And his process, he composes songs as he records them. It's spontaneous, organic, allows for improvisation. He's always aiming for music that's, quote, deep-sounding enough that a listener could potentially inhabit the world of sound totally.
Creating an immersive space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, giving his powerful insight into his artistic awakening. Elverum talked about seeing Stereolab play live.
Oh, the Stereolab story.
Yeah, in Bellingham, Washington.
Yeah.
He said they played one chord for 15 minutes. And he stated that something in me shifted. And this is amazing. I brought home belief that I could create eternity.
Wow. Finding eternity in a single chord held for 15 minutes. That is a profound artistic revelation.
Isn't it? Finding boundlessness in sustained sound. And you can hear how that might have influenced him. He also openly declared Julie Doiron his favorite singer and called meeting and playing with her a dream come true.
Oh, that's sweet. Shows his admiration for other artists, too.
Yeah. And his work, it consistently explores this core set of themes. The moon, often as this silent observer. Humanity's complex relationship with nature and technology, health, relationships, the human condition.
Big existential stuff.
Big stuff. Impermanence, loneliness, the fleetingness of life itself. However, and this is important, he denies his songs are primarily about just sadness or isolation.
Right, he pushes back against that simple reading.
He offers a more nuanced take. He sees nature in his work as, quote, just the version of a world that I use to represent a neutral, non-human place where we're living out our weird adventures.
Okay, so nature is a backdrop, not necessarily a comfort or an antagonist, just indifferent.
Exactly. Less about anthropomorphizing nature, more using it as this stark, in different setting for the often intense drama of human experience.
That eclectic mix of influences really does explain why his music consistently defies easy categorization.
Mm,
Indie rock, drone, grunge, black metal, pop sensibilities. He's not bound by genre at all. He's drawing from this huge palette to create something completely new.
his own thing.
Entirely his own thing. And that Stereolab anecdote, it's such a perfect illustration of that moment of profound artistic insight finding eternity or boundlessness in sustained minimalist sound.
Mm,
That concept feels like it permeates his expansive, atmospheric, often really meditative compositions,
right.
where repetition and duration create this almost trance-like quality.
Yeah, you can get lost in it.
Totally. And then the Zen poetry influence, with its focus on impermanence, mindfulness, and this deep, unromanticized connection with nature that ties directly into his recurring lyrical themes. It grounds his musical explorations in this deeper philosophical framework that embraces the transient nature of everything.
Yeah, this exploration of such diverse influences and themes, it's not just like a laundry list of names. It really is a guide to understanding how truly original art synthesizes all these disparate ideas. It can help you maybe identify similar threads in your own favorite artists, or even just recognize the myriad, sometimes really unexpected sources that shape your own perspectives. It's about seeing that interconnectedness of creative thought and appreciating the unique blend that makes an artist singular.
Well put.
But the evolution of these themes, and really his whole artistic approach, it became starkly, tragically apparent after this pivotal personal event.
Right, the dividing line he mentioned.
Exactly. Before he met Genevieve Castray, his songs, as he put it, were dictated by whatever specific turmoil I was going through. Just raw, immediate reflections of his emotional state at the time.
More diaristic, maybe.
Perhaps. Then, after meeting her, this subtle but significant shift happened. He became more withdrawn in his lyrics, intentionally choosing not to discuss the relationship openly in his music, like creating this private artistic space just for their shared life.
Guardedness.
Yeah. And this privacy was maintained for years, until Mount Eerie's 2017 album, A Crow Looked at Me.
Which just broke everything open.
Completely. That album profoundly broke the silence. It's entirely centered around her death from cancer. It's raw, it's unflinching, it's deeply personal, almost unbearably vulnerable, just an expression of grief in real time. It marked this definitive and obviously heartbreaking new chapter in his work.
And that stark division in his themes, it just highlights the profound, almost seismic impact that personal experience can have on an artist's path. The decision to make A Crow looked at me such a raw, unfiltered, almost journalistic expression of grief. It was an undeniable, significant departure from that previous guardedness.
Totally different mode.
It wasn't just, a breakup album or a tribute song. It felt like this real-time, devastating documentation of loss as it was happening. It offered this unparalleled level of vulnerability, transforming his private anguish into this public yet somehow universally resonant work of art that spoke to the deepest ports of human sorrow.
Yeah.
It's this powerful testament to art as a way of processing the unbearable. And for the listener, it's an invitation to empathize with a truly naked emotional experience. It's difficult listening, but profound.
It really illustrates how deeply art can be intertwined with personal experience, and how artists, in their most vulnerable moments, can channel these profound life events into works that resonate universally, speaking to the human condition itself. It's a testament to how the intensely personal can become profoundly universal.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to actually describing his musical style, Elverum famously said, "You can easily find out what my music sounds like. I will not try to describe it."
Yeah, that's a classic Elverum line. Defiant, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Almost provocative.
Yeah.
He's basically forcing you, the listener, to just engage directly with the work. Forget the genre boxes, forget the preconceived notions. Just listen.
Let the music speak for itself.
Exactly. But he has offered a little glimpse into his aesthetic goals. He described them once as an attempt to replicate a dark presence in nature.
Ooh, interesting phrase, a dark presence in nature.
Yeah, a specific mood, an atmosphere he found really compelling in shows like Twin Peaks.
Ah, the Twin Peaks connection again. Makes sense. That unsettling beauty.
Totally. And appropriately enough, his writing has often been described as Lynchian, evoking that similar sense of mystery, quiet strangeness, profound beauty mixed with something unsettling.
Yeah, that fits.
Critics, of course, despite his resistance, have tried to pin down his elusive sound. Vanity Fair called his aesthetic acoustic, stripped down and ponderous.
Ponderous. Oh, my God.
Skinny described it as dreamlike, morbid and transcendent.
Morbid and transcendent, quite the combination.
Right. His music seamlessly pulls in elements of ambient textures, traditional folk storytelling, even the raw aggression and atmospheric soundscapes of black metal sometimes. Yet it consistently eludes an exact genre.
It really does. You can't just slap one label on it.
His songs are often really dynamic, too. They frequently alternate and shift, transitioning from these beautifully delicate melodies to pounding, fuzzy riffs, sometimes within the very same track.
Those subtle shifts are definitely a hallmark. Keeps you on your toes.
And you'll also notice these skittering rhythms and this distinctive merging of drum machines with acoustic elements, which adds to his unique, often kind of hypnotic sonic world.
The blend of organic and electronic, yeah. It's very characteristic.
It is.
And it's interesting to think about why an artist resists defining their own art like that. Maybe it is a deliberate strategy, to let the listener engage unfiltered, free from the baggage of labels.
Could be. Protects the work, maybe.
Perhaps. And that Twin Peaks comparison is particularly telling, I think. It points to this very specific mood he's aiming for, that sense of mystery, the sublime, but also the subtly unsettling within the natural world, like a primal dread wrapped up in beauty.
Yeah, that captures it well.
And the fact that his work is so genre-defying, it's not a limitation. It's really a testament to a true innovator, someone who confidently draws from all these disparate sources to create something uniquely, unmistakably his own. He's building his own sound language, really, rather than just borrowing existing ones.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a compelling approach. It ensures you can't just passively consume it. You have to actively listen. And his lyrical approach, his vocal delivery, they're equally distinctive. They foster this really intimate, almost direct connection with the audience.
The delivery is key.
Elverum's lyrics, they've consistently been described using words like confessional, often sparse, but also tersely poetic, and delivered this conversational style that just blurs the lines between speaking and singing. That technique often called speak-sing.
Right. It doesn't always follow traditional melody lines.
Not at all. His storytelling feels very free-flowing. It often avoids rigid song structures, opting for this more organic, almost stream-of-consciousness narrative that feels incredibly intimate.
Like you're hearing his thoughts directly.
Exactly. The Believer magazine noted his work can be delicately sparse or layered and noisy, often in the same song, and added that, lyrically, he focuses on memory, first-person storytelling, myth, naturalism, the everyday is sacred, and sense of place.
Wow, that covers a lot of ground. The everyday is sacred, that feels very key.
It does. And Slate magazine elaborated on that, describing his aesthetic as fairly subdued yet intense and solipsistic, meaning very inward-looking, with a kind of American transcendentalist aesthetic.
Emerson, Thoreau, Whitman, that whole philosophical movement.
Right. Emphasizing self-reliance, the goodness of nature, spiritual connection outside of organized religion. That philosophical core is combined with what Slate calls a distinctly Pacific Northwest naturalist mysticism, creating this deeply introspective yet very geographically rooted lyrical world.
And what's fascinating there is how that lyrical approach allows for such an intimate connection. That speak and sing style, especially, it just breaks down the traditional barrier between the performer and the audience.
Yeah, it feels very direct.
It makes his deeply personal stories feel less like performed songs and more like direct communication, as if he's speaking right to you. It's a kind of vulnerability that's baked right into the delivery itself. And that connection to American transcendentalism, it just further emphasizes that deep engagement with nature, with introspection, and with finding the profound in the mundane. Those are such hallmarks of his work. He's basically inviting you into his internal world and the external world as he sees it, which is often imbued with this kind of quiet spiritual significance.
Yeah. This whole discussion about his vocal and lyrical styles, it might encourage you listening to pay closer attention, to how different artists use these specific tools, vocal delivery, lyrical focus, to convey emotion and meaning. How they can transform the everyday into something sacred and deeply resonant. It's about how the delivery itself becomes part of the message.
Definitely. Form and content working together.
Now, the impact and the critical acclaim for Phil Elverum's work, both as The Microphones and Mount Eerie, it's considerable. It extends far beyond just some niche appeal. He's really been instrumental in shaping the landscape of current indie rock.
Oh, hugely influential, no question.
Influencing countless artists. Countless listeners who gravitate towards that unique blend of introspection and raw honesty. Rachel Lateman wrote something really apt about this. She said, "The effectiveness of Elverum's style reminds us about the injury, and profound misunderstanding incurred when we put the form of expression called singing in a box.
That's powerful, a call to broaden our definition of singing.
Exactly, embracing unconventional deliveries. But maybe the most telling indicator of his unique status comes from Isabel Zacharias, who claimed that Elverum, quote, "to a pocket of Pacific Northwesterners is more folkloric deity than musician."
Folkloric deity, there it is again.
Right. Adding that his releases under the microphones propelled him to indie god status. That's a powerful testament to his cultural impact, isn't it?
It really is. And that claim, folkloric deity, it really makes you ask, what elevates an artist beyond just fandom or critical success? It suggests something much deeper is going on there.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
It points to this almost spiritual connection, maybe, between the artist, their specific local environment. Like Anacortes itself becomes this character in his mythology, right? And their dedicated audience.
Right, the place is part of the story.
He's not just making music. He's somehow embodying a particular spirit or voice that speaks directly to a community's identity, their shared experiences. It transcends the usual boundaries of musical celebrity. It implies this raw, unvarnished journey that his audience feels deeply invested in, making him this kind of living legend within his own unique sphere. It's a truly unique kind of resonance he has.
Yeah, that makes sense. And his artistic vision, it definitely isn't just confined to sound. It's this comprehensive approach that pulls in visual arts, other creative projects, truly building out that entire world we talked about at the start, one tangible piece at a time.
Exactly. It's all connected.
So beyond his, groundbreaking music, Phil Elverum is also widely known for his distinct artwork and photography. And these are absolutely integral to his whole vision. This isn't just some side hobby.
No, it's totally woven in, an extension of the core aesthetic.
Definitely. Early in his career, he was already producing these limited-run fanzines and song booklets, stuff he personally sold on Microphones tours, creating these tangible, immediate extensions of the music right there.
Giving fans something physical, something connected.
Exactly. Then once he established P.W. Elverum and Son, Ltd., he started experimenting even further. He got into letterpress printing.
Which is a very traditional tactile method, creates that beautiful impression in the paper.
Right, almost sculptural texture. And he started doing really elaborate packaging ideas for his releases. It meant every album wasn't just something you listened to, it was a visual and tactile experience too.
The object itself became part of the art.
Totally. In 2007, he published Mount Eerie 6 and 7. It was this unique hardcover book of his film photography, and it came with a 10-inch picture disc, fusing the visual and the auditory into this single, compelling object you could hold.
That's a perfect example of his holistic approach.
Yeah. Then in 2009, he had his first actual art show called In Dreams at a Stumptown Coffee in Portland. It featured these striking landscape photos he'd taken in Norway, France, rural Washington.
Using antique cameras and expired film, right?
Exactly. Which gives the images this timeless, almost ethereal quality. It really echoes the themes in his music, that sense of atmosphere and decay, maybe.
Medium matches the mood.
Precisely. Then in 2014, he released Dust, which was a book of digital photography bound in stamped linen, showcasing his versatility across different photo mediums, but still maintaining that distinct aesthetic.
Still recognizably his vision.
And today, he continues to sell large-scale photographic prints and ink paintings through his online store. And in this really powerful testament to how deeply intertwined his visual and musical narratives are, his album Microphones in 2020.
That epic single track.
Yeah, that huge song.
Yeah.
It was accompanied by a lyric video made up of over 800 photos from his life, visually demonstrating the narrative as the song unfolded over its, 45 minutes?
Yeah, it was incredibly effective.
Yeah.
It really allowed you to inhabit the world he was creating visually and sonically.
Exactly.
And what's fascinating here is just that consistent, unwavering thread of visual artistry. It doesn't just complement the music, it deeply enriches it. His deliberate choice of things like antique cameras, expired film, it aligns perfectly with his preference for analog recording.
Yeah, it's the same sensibility.
It's a consistent aesthetic choice, favoring these tangible, imperfect, maybe more authentic mediums that carry a sense of history, a human touch. This isn't just a side project, it's an organic extension of his core aesthetic, consistently capturing that dark presence in nature, not just in sound, but in light, shadow, texture. He's a true world builder operating across all these different mediums.
Yeah. And his creative output, it really extends far beyond just music and photography.
Hmm.
It demonstrates this expansive, multidisciplinary approach to storytelling. It's almost like he sees different mediums as just different chapters in this ongoing narrative he's telling.
Hmm. Different tools for the same core ideas.
So back in 2001, while he was on tour, Elverum actually wrote a paper opera.
A paper opera, what is that?
Apparently, it was a play written for a magazine meant to be read, not performed. And it centered around the theme of death.
Wow, okay, that's fascinating. Shows his textual and narrative interests early on.
Totally. Then in 2005, he created a 365-day comic calendar called Fancy People Adventures, which later got syndicated by the music website Tiny Mixtapes, just showcasing his ability to craft these whimsical narratives in completely different formats.
A comic calendar. Very different vibe.
Right. In 2017, after finishing his 8th Mount Eerie album, he did another unique project, a book entirely about Anacortes, Washington, delving even deeper into that profound sense of place and how it influenced his art.
Really mapping his territory, literally.
Seems like it. He also produced background visuals for his live shows, released as a limited DVD called Fog Movies, and created promotional videos for several Mount Eerie songs, adding yet another layer to his immersive performances.
Right, controlling the visual aspect live, too.
And tragically, in 2020, it was reported he was actively working on an art book of Genevieve Castre's unpublished work, continuing to honor her artistic legacy, ensuring her creativity saw the light of day.
That's incredibly important work, a continuation of their connection.
Yeah, the paper opera and the comic calendar, they particularly highlight just how varied his creative outlets are. His innate drive for narrative exploration beyond traditional song structures. It proves he's really a storyteller first and foremost, using whatever medium fits.
And if you connect all this to the bigger picture, Elverum's multidisciplinary output powerfully reinforces that holistic approach we keep talking about. He doesn't just make music, he meticulously constructs entire aesthetic ecosystems.
Yeah, ecosystem's is the right word.
Constantly experimenting with different forms, different mediums to express his overarching artistic concerns, his philosophical questions. This continuous experimentation, this refusal to be boxed into just one medium, it speaks volumes about his artistic restlessness.
Never standing still.
Never. And his ambition, apparently, to eventually make movies, viewing them as the ultimate art form and the potential culmination of his creativity.
Yeah.
That says so much about his expansive, almost limitless artistic vision. It shows he sees all these different forms as interconnected vessels for this singular artistic pursuit, this grand narrative he's constantly building and refining.
Yeah. It really showcases the power of an artist using such diverse mediums to tell a complete immersive story. And I might inspire you listening to consider how different forms of expression can complement and elevate each other in your own creative work, telling your story in richer, more layered ways.
Thinking beyond category.
So what about the future for Elverum? These recent details we have, they offer this poignant and deeply personal update to his ongoing story, showing both continuity and new beginnings.
Right.
In 2020, Elverum, with help from his brother, was apparently engaged in this highly symbolic act of building a house off the coast of Anacortes.
Okay. Building something tangible.
Yeah, and significantly, it was a project he had previously intended to build with Genevieve.
Wow. Okay, that detail speaks volumes, doesn't it? About continuity, memory, the human act of rebuilding, even amidst loss.
It really does. And then, more recently, in August 2025, he announced that he and his partner, Indigo Free, were expecting a baby.
Ah, that's wonderful news. A powerful and hopeful note.
Isn't it?
Yeah, these details truly offer a very poignant, deeply personal update to Phil Elverum's life. They reflect both that profound sense of continuity symbolized by building the house originally planned with Genevieve and the exciting, life-affirming prospect of new beginnings with anticipating a child with Indigo Free.
A new chapter, for sure.
It implies the significant journey of rebuilding, healing, and profound new growth. And given his intensely personal approach to art, where life and creation are just so intertwined, these monumental shifts will undoubtedly continue to profoundly influence his future creative work.
You'd have to assume so.
His art and life remain inextricably linked, always moving forward, always reflecting the deepest human experiences, joy, loss, change, continuity, all of it. Hashtag, tag, outro.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up, unpack what we've talked about. We've journeyed through this singular, deeply personal world of Phil Elverum. It's quite a world. It really is. From his Anacortes roots, that deep community immersion in Olympia, to his prolific, genre-defying music under both the microphones and Mount Eerie.
Covering a lot of ground.
We've seen how his unwavering commitment to that holistic analog process, his deeply personal yet universally resonant themes, and his diverse artistic expressions spanning music, photography, writing, printing, how they've all collectively carved out this truly unique and influential space in independent culture.
And what's truly compelling here, I think, is how Elverum's life and art are just so profoundly intertwined. They offer this powerful, undeniable testament to the idea that true artistic integrity often stems directly from authentic personal experience.
Yeah, you can't fake that level of depth.
No, is a relentless, almost spiritual pursuit of a coherent artistic vision, even through profound loss and now new beginnings. It kind of makes us ask, doesn't it? How does the art you engage with truly reflect the deeply human stories behind its creation?
That's a good question.
And how does recognizing that intrinsic connection, that human story, deepen your appreciation for it? What kind of personal courage does it take for an artist to lay their soul bare like he often does?
Yeah, it definitely makes you think differently about the art you consume.
Mm.
So we hope this deep dive maybe sparks some new thoughts for you listening. Perhaps it's an invitation to seek out art that speaks to you on an even deeper level than just the surface, to appreciate the meticulous craftsmanship behind every piece, whether it's music or visual art or anything else, and to recognize that some of the most profound and lasting art is born from the most personal and often the most challenging journeys. Keep diving deep.